Hello, I'm Alvar, and I'm going to talk a bit about my pieces. Victorian Beetle number 7 and Victorian Beetle number 7 and Victorian Beetle number 7 recolored. I'm going to skip a bit because she spoke about some of the things I was going to talk about. But just to go over this again, so in the last 2 years, look at my notes, right? So in the last couple of years, I've been collecting modular elements of these Victorian houses and using them as a vocabulary to create these new figures out of a collage, digital collage specifically. I submitted these, sorry, I'm a bit out of order. Sorry, this is my first time doing this, it's terrifying. I was drawn to creating beetle collages because the beetle's signature exoskeleton has a rigidity and permanence that reminds me of the consistency of historic building facades through time. And I submitted these pieces specifically because this exhibition is centered around the theme of sky, which made me think of these winged beetles here. Within the theme of sky, we were asked to think about environmental degradation and injustice. And on that topic, for me, these beetles, born of man-made elements that come together to celebrate nature's design, represent the balance that we should seek to achieve in our relationship with the world around us. We are capable of so much in terms of technology and shaping our environment, but we should remember to use these capabilities in service of the bigger picture, the earth we live on. That's it.
So I have an immediate question.
Yes.
How did you create these? They're amazing.
Thank you. So I just take the pictures of the houses myself, and then using Adobe programs, I take out the bits I want, and then I shape them into the silhouette I want.
And then the coloration, how do you handle that?
The coloration is also done on the computer. This one has the original colors of the buildings, and this one is taking that theme of change and pushing it a bit further and just getting rid of all the colors and just leaving to yellow and black. And so to me, when I do that, it's like, can you still see the building? Or is it something completely new? Or is it somewhere in between? And also it's pretty.
I have a question
Yes.
about the beetle itself. Is it a particular kind of beetle, or what is your relationship? Can you talk a little more about what you were saying about your relationship to a beetle and the structure and architecture of a beetle?
Right, so these specific beetles are, they're not any particular beetles. I usually start with the silhouette of a beetle, but because of the individual details of each element, they kind of stick out and they do away with the silhouette over time, so it's just a beetle. I don't want to give it say it's a specific beetle because it doesn't look like the original thing at all. And the rest of the question was?
Oh, just your relationship to a beetle. Beetles show up in art and symbolism a lot, and I wondered if you had a relationship to the beetle.
Myself, no, just more so how I think I saw something similar in how we treat historic buildings and their facades, especially like Victorian architecture, for example, and how, say, we do something similar with beetles sometimes throughout history. The first one that comes to mind is ancient Egypt with the scarab. Yes.
I'm just curious, because the gold represents to me like dreams of, yeah, just like, dream of, so is that, would you call it like the idealized version of the house? Like, what was your intention with it?
My intention of making it gold was specifically gold would be to kind of play with this idea of something iconic. I think we attribute gold to something valuable, sure. Yeah. And that, and it was also, I had a coworker that she had a lot of these beetle rings, and it made me think of jewelry a bit. And so kind of went with that idea. And for this one specifically, I made it gold. But I have a lot of others that are different colors as well.
Can I just say that not very many pieces actually address insects? And like, I was really excited to like unwrap these and see that there were bugs or in the sky. You know, because they're, did you know, like the entire bug population is in 10 years going to diminish by 20%. Aren't they crazy? Like the numbers are, and you know, and insects are like, it's not just bees, like we need them.
Yeah.
Like, and they reflect on all of these things that are happening, so it was really, thank you. We have a lot of birds, not very many bugs. And I'm not like, the beetles are special.
I had a question and a comment. The comment was that from where I'm from, we have a lot of like invasive beetles. So one of the first things I thought of here was also sometimes dealing with a little bit of an invasive species coming to San Francisco. Like I work in tech, you know, you hear a lot about the dynamic of how bad that has kind of been for the city in some ways. So
Yeah.
that was a direction that like I needed to do when I saw your piece, which sounds pretty different. But the question I had was around, I guess like you mentioned beetles in this specific piece. Do you have other kind of pieces that deal with other types of like animals or insects or figures or?
Not other animals, but I have done other series using Victorian architecture where I play with the idea of something a bit more sci-fi oriented. So I try to make it look like these floating objects, or some of them where it's just making something symmetrical, you know, and just trying to make it both really hard and really easy to notice the Victorian houses. I like to play with that a bit. Make it so that, you know, you see the beetle, for example, but if you look closely, you can see, oh, there's a whole house here, and then there's like 4 houses on the wing. Make it, you know, kind of fun to analyze.
I wanted to comment how I'm looking at your pieces, and to me, just looks like I get a lot of past and future, because like Renee said, there's a lot of insects that are going to be perishing, but the one thing, there are certain species of bugs that are not, and like cockroaches and beetles, but they're but once we're gone, if our planet is not sustainable, they will rule the planet.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like yin yang, you know, both past and future. That's a very, it's very interesting.
Thank you. I will never make a cockroach collage, though. I don't care how much you pay me.
Thank
I think what's really interesting is that the inversion, really, because we build houses to keep the elements and animals out, and here it looks like the beetle has conquered the house in a way, transformed the home. It's an interesting.
My comment, I look at architecture from a very different perspective, and is that the gold resonates with me because of we're losing the old Vics to boxes.
Yeah.
Really
Boxes.
not pretty boxes. And it costs so much to keep one of those houses up.
Yeah.
So the gold represents to me, in a sense, while it's beautiful, it's also like, it's a money pit for that kind of house.
Yeah.
And the elements that we have here in San Francisco.
It's a bit, if you think about it too hard, it seems a bit absurd, It's like you want to keep the character of the city, but that's also kind of the biggest issue of the city, is wanting to keep that. So it's kind of, that's why I think we need to be changing, not all the time, but we need to kind of accept that it will happen inevitably. So as much as I love the Victorian houses, and they've been a great way for me to create some very fun pieces, I don't think they should be permanent. I don't know. I think only time will tell, but leaving them as it is not going to solve it, unfortunately. But I don't like the boxes either. But they generally have pretty good plumbing.
Well, and wood and electrical, but all the infrastructure, Yeah, insulation, you know, small little thing that we might need